Welcome to Consults Over Coffee, conversations about healthcare. I'm your host, Dr. Michael Jones. We're here today to discuss staying physically and mentally healthy and well during these challenging times. We'll also discuss issues pertaining to healthcare and our healthcare system. Joining me today is Debbie Dust, former professional cyclist who holds a master's in health administration. She also has numerous certifications, including a personal training certificate from the American College of Sports Medicine, as well as certifications in nutrition coaching, rowing, TRX, CrossFit, and most recently, now a certified yoga instructor. I hope you enjoy this conversation that we had with Ron Skinner from WRWK. This is a time that we probably need to connect societally more than at any other time that I can remember. So getting out and saying hi to your neighbors and getting a little fresh air and exercise.
Yeah, a lot of that stuff is free.
Exactly.
Yeah, so.
Free is good, man. Free is good. And you know what? And you can also, again, if you need help, there are
resources are vast.
There are a lot of local, and we all need to kind of help each other right now. And so there's not a reason to not be happy and healthy and working at the moment and staying safe. And hopefully we'll all get through this.
It could almost be a positive side.
It could be.
Yeah.
It could. I mean, this. I don't want to say this is a good thing.
Well,
but there's an opportunity for something good to come from this. This could actually pull people out of a very divisive period in our history. We really need. But you know what? That also requires leadership.
Yeah.
Well, and insight too. I mean, I know, obviously there are a lot. It's a very uncertain time. Things can be very dark, and if you let them be. But I don't know. I kind of find that in all of this chaos and difficulty, I also am far more attuned to moments and things that are memorable and bright spots and things that move me forward, that are positive, that are happening in the midst of all this chaos and horribleness. So even if it's just being able to sit on the porch with my husband and drink coffee.
Yeah, no, I kind of like the whole. I was talking with your aunt. I mean, the whole porch sitting thing is. I was going to sit on the porch with a cup of coffee and a book, and I never get any book read because I'm talking to people walking up and down the street. Yeah, you're up on the porch, you're distanced. Yeah. But the neighbors, are often out on their porch. So we're talking back and forth. People are walking their dogs, they're walking their kids. You say hi.
I just think there are a lot of moments. There are opportunities for moments here where you can, the goodness of humanity can definitely be recognized, and not overlook those things because they matter right now.
And I think and I think that's a great point. That frankly, most people are not all good or all bad. And we need to get back to a point where we sort of see that and reconcile differing views and not inflame differences and tensions.
Yeah. And take care of each other. And
take care of each other. Absolutely.
Yeah. That's what we expect in our conversations.
Well, I think more along the theme. One of my great I love medicine. I hate healthcare in this country. It's a disaster. It's a disaster.
Well phrased.
And I think one of my great goals is frankly medicine. Medicine is not a science. Medicine is a humanity, and it borrows from science when it's convenient. But I will also tell you that having been in the game for a long time, there's a lot of good science that gets rejected because it doesn't fit the current model. And so I think I really like the idea of conversations about people and health and how to stay healthy and stay out of the healthcare system, because there's nothing in the healthcare system. This is all putting fires out. The goal here is to not have to go to the doctor. The goal here is not to have to go to the hospital. The goal here is to not have to take pills. So conversations about things that will help people do that. Because I have to tell you, I get tired of hearing from people that, my inflammatory bowel disease is horribly out of control right now. Well, why is that? You were doing so well. Well, the insurance company changed my prescription plan and I can't afford the medication that's worked for me for the last 4 years anymore. So now I'm having abdominal pain and bloody diarrhea and I'm losing weight and I feel horrible because I can't afford what they want me to pay for something that's worked for me. That's criminal.
You're victimized by an economic.
Yeah, or someone saying, you know what, I have cancer, and I don't know that, frankly, I want to spend all my family's savings to treat this because I'm going to die anyway. And so I can treat this and maybe have some more time, but leave my family with nothing. And people should not have to make that decision. And we're not talking about doing heroic one-off therapies here. We're talking about ground level stuff. I mean, nuts and bolts stuff. But to have conversations with people where you talk about American exceptionalism and our great healthcare system, when all you have to do is look on social media, look at the GoFundMe pages for people who got sick. I'm sorry you got sick.
that have insurance.
And I know you're right, and you're passing the hat, so you don't go bankrupt, or you are. I mean, so those things I think are important to.
Okay, and then my piece is part of this.
Yeah.
Yes. Please.
I think as an industry, kind of health, wellness, and fitness sort of is stigmatized. It can be stigmatized, but it's far deeper and more involved than just going to the gym or what's the latest craze, or there's a lot of myth busting that needs to happen out there. There's a lot of unsafe practice, like any industry, going on out there. But underneath all of it, obviously there's a lot of science involved. There are numerous volumes and et cetera written about exercise physiology and biomechanics and all of these things. But underneath all of it, it's very human as well. And so you can teach classes and push content and get people riled up and get their heart rates up and kick their butts and make them lift weights, as much as anyone. But the way you do those things and the way that you connect with people and help them with their behaviors is basically ultimately what's going to help somebody be healthy and well.
I think it's important. The other thing is again, I mentioned medicine is a humanity. And the interesting thing to me is there's this mindset, and we've sold this, that it's this science, and if I only understood the DNA of your colon or the DNA, I could solve all your problems. And the fact is that nothing's farther from the truth. What's the first question that a physician typically asks you, other than "Can I see your insurance card?" is but the first thing you say to somebody is, "Well, how do you feel?" Guess what?
What's going on?
We're immediately out of the realm of the objective and into the realm of the subjective. And so all those things, the fact is that nothing happens in a vacuum. Everything has different meaning, and people have different ways of reporting and interpreting, and they have different fears and different levels of understanding. And that is, I had a professor I've known for 30 years who said to me one day, "I can teach you pretty much anything you need to know about treating any given disease in 5 minutes or less." He goes, "Diseases are pretty boring, people are really interesting." And there's nothing could be truer than that. And if you really want to understand what's going on, you're not going to learn that from the CAT scan, from the x-ray, from the colonoscopy. You may, but you know what? The story, you got to get the story first. You got to get the story first. And the only way to get the story is to talk to people. And talking to people is just, that's the beauty of the job. You get paid to schmooze with people. Tell me your story, man. Tell me what's going on. That's the kind of thing that bringing people in, because the other thing was that just my clinical research, which was started out as clinical digestive physiology. I started out doing weird little digestive physiology things, gastric emptying tests, measurement of intestinal contractions in different places in the gut or whatever, and all this stuff. And it was all a lot of fun, and it was kind of cool, but I wasn't really helping anybody. And I used to have this joke that it was the rule of 30, which was 30% of these tests are going to be abnormal in anybody you do them in.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean, so they weren't. It wasn't like, oh, well, if you saw this, here's the treatment and it will make it all better. Most of it was more phenomenology than it was, diagnostic. So I was doing all this stuff, and it was fun, and it was really cool. But I started one day, and I was doing a lot of work in people with irritable bowel syndrome, which is a common condition, really defined as basically abdominal pain and altered bowel habits in people with no definable pathology. That is, their colonoscopy is fine, all their blood work, their lab tests, all this stuff is fine. So as I used to say to people, parts look good, motor runs bad. This is irritable bowel syndrome. And there's a whole host that falls under a broader heading of what are called functional digestive disorders. And so, but we're looking at this, and the first thing we did, I did just a general quality of life measure. The test for people that are interested, it's called an SF-36. And it measures basically physical aspects of quality of life and then emotional aspects of quality of life. And it's a well-standardized study. And some of these folks, man, they had quality of life and it's been studied in various conditions over the years. They had quality of life that was on the floor. It was like people with bad depression. And I'm thinking, and not to minimize the impact on somebody's quality of life, but you're looking at them going, these are people that have had all this evaluation done, and everything looks good. But this, whatever they have, makes them this miserable. And so we started to go, well, maybe the issue's not just digestive. Mm-hmm. And so we sort of started to get into more of the psychosocial aspects of illness. And all of a sudden, and doing standardized things, and I had health psychologists that were working with me. And all of a sudden, we started to look at simple things: anxiety, depression, history of abuse, coping strategies, patterns of illness behavior, family dynamics, and all these things. And all of a sudden, it was like the sixth sense. Like I see dead people. It was like, where did all this come from? All of a sudden, all these unthinkable, all these unsolvable problems suddenly became much more fixable, because you could address what the underlying issues really were.
And it wasn't physical, it was...
And sometimes it is and sometimes it's not. And we would say, well, look, you know what, and I say this to people all the time, if you've got the stomach flu, it never helps your mood. Conversely, if your stomach doesn't feel good and your boss is yelling at you, it doesn't help your stomach feel any better. Nobody ever enjoyed a meal when the IRS showed up at their door. I mean, this isn't complicated. This is life. This is human nature. And the fact is that it is horse sense. And the fact is that your brain controls your gut. Your gut's a dumb beast, man. It does what your central nervous system tells it to do. And there's all this stuff about an enteric nervous system, a gut brain, and it's like, yeah, well, which is analogous to the video chip in your computer. It doesn't run your computer. It does some simple stuff so your computer can do the rest of the other stuff. That's what the gut brain is. And those nerves are a direct extension of the central nervous system, particularly a part of the brain called the limbic system, which is the command and control center of your brain. Functions unconsciously, but can make you aware of things. But it's responsible for awareness, arousal, fight or flight responses, blood pressure regulation, emotionality, all this stuff. So yeah, all these, and digestion in particular is a luxury of the unthreatened animal. There is no survival advantage to digesting a cheeseburger. You know, and if you watch, you feed a baby, you feed a cat, what do? They eat, they fall over, they go to sleep. Why? There's a lot of blood and energy required to digest a meal. Well, if you are in a position where you may have to run for your life, you may have to fight for your survival, turning on your gut is the last thing you do. So if you are in fight or flight mode, because I got 5 million things to do at work and my boss is yelling at me and I may get fired and I don't know what the hell I'm going to do, blah, blah, blah. And then you sit down and you eat 8 slices of pizza, or, you know. The motor will run, but it will run poorly. You know, and so learning to address those things became critical. And so that to me, and we introduced behavioral medicine therapies, and there are some very well established behavioral medicine techniques. One, gut-directed hypnotherapy, and we'll have somebody come and talk about that. I've used for 15 years, and is the single most efficacious therapy for irritable bowel syndrome. Yeah.
Well, that would be a fun show.
Yeah. So that's, you know, that's kind of basically what are we looking at in the future. Learn how to take care of yourself. Understand the bigger picture. Realize that this is about people. It's not about pills. It's not about surgeries. It's about taking care of each other.